Dark Things Disney Doesn't Want You to Know, Part 1. So, did you know that Disney holds the reputation for no one ever dying at their park? Yeah, I know, seems a little bit crazy. And this statement is clearly false because tons of people, employees, and visitors have died at Disney. So, how do they get away with this claim, you ask? So Disney has this policy that whenever someone dies at their park, that they actually have to be carried outside of the park before being pronounced dead. So that's a little sneaky thing that Disney does so that families are like, oh, Disney's so safe, no one's ever died there. No, ma'am, people do die. Sorry. Dark Things Disney Doesn't Want You to Know, Part 2. So in 1979, Disney actually had a lawsuit filed against them because someone died on their Space Mountain ride. After this ride, this woman was feeling super sick and she tried to get off the ride. But the workers unfortunately didn't see her and she got sent on the ride again. This time, when the ride came to an end, she was unconscious. The ride had put her into a coma and a week later, she passed away. Now, I know you guys are all thinking, well, how did she die on the ride? Well, here. So, apparently on the ride, a tumor had dislodged from her heart and traveled to her brain, which is super freaking scary. But in the end, after finding that this was the cause of death, the lawsuit was dropped. But still, this case is super controversial because people think, well, if she got off sooner and wasn't sent around on the ride again, could she maybe still be here today? Dark Things Disney Doesn't Want You to Know, Part 3. So today I'm going to be talking about the mysterious case of Deborah Gale Stone, aka Debbie Stone. Debbie Stone was an 18-year-old hostess at Disney. She was a hostess for the ride America Sings, which was a musical performance. This was a new attraction, and basically you'd be sitting in a theater facing the stage, and after every act, the theater would rotate. In 1974, during the last performance of the night, Debbie got caught between the rotating wall and the stationary stage wall. She was instantly crushed to death. The scary part is that the audience heard her screams but thought that it was part of the show. Now, the big mystery is how did she get caught in the first place? Some say that she fell between the two walls, others say that she was trying to jump from one stage to another and then got caught, and other people think that she was pushed. On that day, Debbie had just gotten engaged and was super excited and was showing all her coworkers her ring. Apparently one of them was really jealous. But to this day, we sadly still don't know what truly happened to Debbie. Dark Things Disney Doesn't Want You to Know, Part 4. Today, let's talk about the mysterious disappearance of Rebecca Corium. Rebecca Corium was a 24-year-old worker on the Disney Wonder cruise ship. On March 22, 2011, while working on the cruise ship, Rebecca disappeared without a trace. This is one of the last photos taken of her, and it was from CCTV footage. At 5:45 a.m. that morning, footage revealed Rebecca talking on the phone with someone. She seemed visibly distressed. Now here's where it gets twisted. Many people believe that Disney knows exactly what happened to Rebecca, but are trying to cover up this whole thing. Let me explain. For starters, the captain of the ship said that Rebecca was just washed over by a big wave. They then gave Rebecca's parents a sandal and said that this was hers and it was retrieved from the deck that she was last seen on. Number 1, the sandal wasn't her size. Number 2, it wasn't her style. It was also revealed that Disney had edited the CCTV footage. The Mysterious Disappearance of Rebecca Corium, Part 2. Basically, Rebecca was a worker for a Disney cruise ship and she disappeared one night without a trace, and Disney's covering it up. Basically, what I said in my last video is that Disney lied to Rebecca's parents and they edited the CCTV footage of her. Why would they do this, you may ask? Well, how bad would it look if one of their employees died on their cruise ship? The captain lied and said that Rebecca was just washed away by a big wave from a storm that night. Well, guess what? There was no storm that night. A worker on the Disney cruise ship that actually knew Rebecca said that Disney knows exactly what happened. They have CCTV footage of it. They're just refusing to show anyone. He went on to say, there's CCTV footage everywhere. How did they not know what happened to Rebecca after that phone call? So basically it's thought that Disney knows exactly what happened to her. They're just covering it up so that they don't damage their reputation, which is super messed up. I just hope that one day we can get justice for Rebecca. Dark Things Disney Doesn't Want You to Know, Part 5. So there's a ride at Disneyland that is responsible for the most fatal and non-fatal accidents. The ride is called the Matterhorn. So the ride opened on June 14th, 1959, and it was designed after the Matterhorn, which is a mountain in the Swiss Alps. But shortly after opening, the ride was found to be very dangerous and deadly. In 1964, a teen stood up on the ride and died after being thrown from it. I mean, technically that was his own fault. But shortly after, the ride malfunctioned and caught on fire and injured a whole family on the ride. Another incident involved Dolly Young, a woman whose seatbelt malfunctioned during the ride and got thrown off of it and then run over by an oncoming bobsled. More on this case in my next video. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know, part 6. So in my last video, I talked about Disneyland's ride, the Matterhorn, and how dangerous it really is. Well, sadly, a woman named Dolly Young was a victim of this ride. In 1984, Dolly was riding the Matterhorn when her seatbelt came undone. She was then launched from the ride and hit by an oncoming bobsled. She died instantly. Now, there's much debate as to how her seatbelt came undone. Some say that she took it off herself to check on her kids that were in another car, or that she didn't have it buckled properly in the first place. But it seems more likely that the seatbelt just malfunctioned. But that's not all. The area where Dolly passed away is now called Dolly's Dip, and employees think that it's haunted. Employees hate going there by themselves because they always say they feel like they're being watched. Others say that the lights in Dolly's Dip never work and they're just always off. So now everyone kind of just avoids that area at all costs. Either way, it's very tragic as to what happened to Dolly. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know, part 7. Today, let's talk about the abandoned Disney theme park, River Country. River Country Park opened in 1976, and it was the first water park at Disney World. And surprise, surprise, a lot of tragedy occurred at this park, which ultimately led to it being shut down. First off, an 11-year-old boy died after getting a bacterial infection from swimming in one of the pools. The bacteria attacked his brain and nervous system, which killed him. 2 years later, another tragedy occurred. This time, a 14-year-old boy died after coming off of one of the water slides, and the lifeguards didn't see him. And Disney didn't learn from this because in 1989, another boy drowned. A witness told the newspaper that the lifeguards were performing CPR incorrectly on him. The park closed its doors in November of 2001, and now it's just abandoned. And of course, urban legend goes that the park is haunted by the souls that have died there. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know, part 8. So today, let's talk about the super creepy urban legend surrounding the ride, It's a Small World. Honestly, that ride always gave me the creeps because just look at those creepy little dolls. No thank you. Well, anyways, this legend dates back to 1999 when a girl and her family went to Disney. They were on this ride when all of a sudden it abruptly stopped. The safety lights came on and a bunch of Disney employees came in and said that everyone needed to be escorted out immediately. When they got outside, they found ambulance and police waiting. Nobody knew what had happened. That was until the girl got home and was reviewing footage from her camera that day. Apparently, when they were evacuating, the mom was taking photos and accidentally took a photo of the ceiling. The photo appears to be of a little boy or worker hanging from the ceiling. This is the photo, and that's the person hanging. Honestly, it kind of just looks like one of the dolls from the ride, but people think that someone hung themselves that day, and that's why they had to be escorted out. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know? Part 9. So according to a legend, the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disney World is haunted by a worker that died there. So legend goes that a man named George was hired by Disney to help build this ride. But during the construction, he either fell off the set or was crushed by a set piece. It's still not clear. Either way, he died instantly. Now it's believed that George's ghost haunts the ride. As a result, workers at Disney always have to say "Good morning, George" and "Good night, George," or else he'll cause trouble for them. Like, all of a sudden the ride will malfunction or just stop working. In fact, 2 visitors at Disney were taking pictures while on this ride and managed to capture George's ghost. Here's the photo, and as you can see, that misty stuff, it looks like a face. Pretty creepy if you ask me. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know? Part 10. So a lot of you in my comments wanted me to talk about the whole crocodile and Disney thing because it's crazy. So this whole thing has to do with the Kilimanjaro safaris at Disney World. Basically, there's a part in the safari where you cross over this crocodile bridge. Well, you're not gonna believe what Disney's protocol is if somebody falls into that crocodile pit. Basically, if someone falls in, they're told to just drive off super fast and leave them. This is because the crocodiles are fed from that bridge, so as soon as something falls into the water, they're going after it. So they're told to speed off so that none of the visitors have to watch the horror that's about to unfold. Also, the crocodiles are going to get to the person super fast, so there's no chance in even saving them. Which is super scary. Like, imagine your loved one falling in and then you can't even go to save them. But basically, that's pretty much it. Let me know in the comments below what other topics you want me to cover. And stay tuned for part 11. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know? Part 11. Today, let's talk about the 2 chefs at Disneyland Paris that took their own lives. One of the chefs is a man named Frank L. In 2010, Frank became very depressed because the park switched from freshly made food to frozen food. His father found him dead with a message scratched into his walls. When translated to English, the message read, "I don't want to work for Mickey anymore." That is super creepy. But that's not all. 5 weeks earlier, a different chef took his life. He said it was for humiliating treatment in the workplace. Sadly, he jumped in front of a train. 3 years later, another employee tries to take their own life. He set himself on fire while at work. So now the question is, what's driving all these workers to take their lives? It's super sad and tragic, and clearly something's going on at Disneyland Paris. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know? Part 12. So today, let's talk about this very disgusting policy that Disney used to have. So basically, if you work for Disney, then you have to share the costume. Well, back in the day, employees not only had to share costumes, but undergarments as well. I wish I was lying, but I'm not. So basically, costume employees couldn't wear their own underwear because it would bunch up and be noticeable when in costume. So up until 2001, employees had their own Disney-sanctioned undergarments, including bike shorts and jock straps that they'd have to share with each other. I'm sorry, but that is absolutely disgusting! And guess what? Employees were passing along disgusting things like pubic lice and other diseases. Others complained about them being stained or smelly. After 2 months of negotiations with Disney, they finally got their own undergarments. Still, I feel bad for those that went through that. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know? Part 13. Today, let's talk about the tragic death of Javier Cruz. Javier Cruz started working at Disney in 1995. Eventually, he became a character actor at Disney and would play the role of Pluto. Sadly, in February of 2004, Cruz lost his life while in costume as Pluto. This happened during the Dreams Come True parade at Magic Kingdom. He was in costume ready to enter the parade when his foot got caught on a float. It was a 3-part float and his foot got caught between the second and third sections of the float. When the float began to move, his body got twisted around and he fell. He was then struck and killed by the third section of the float. It was so bad that they had to use a forklift and hydraulic lift to get the vehicle off of him. Now this all happened in the backstage area of the parade, so thankfully no visitors saw. It was such a tragic incident and Disney was actually fined for this. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration came for Disney saying that they didn't have enough safety protocols. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know? Part 14. Today, let's talk about the tragic death of Austin Wunenberg. Austin was a 21-year-old driver for Disney World's monorail. The monorail is a public transit system that allows park guests to travel between locations associated with Disney. On July 5th, 2009, Austin was transporting the last batch of guests for the night. That's when another train came speeding towards him. He got into a head-on crash that took his life. After investigation, it was discovered that the crash was entirely Disney's fault. Austin's train was on the right track, but the other train was supposed to transfer off at the resort's Epcot loop. But the track switch was never activated, resulting in the crash. A number of employees were blamed for this, as well as Disney for not having enough safety protocols. It's just so tragic and scary what happened to Austin. But this is not the first time the monorail has killed someone. More in my next video. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know? Part 15. So in part 14 of this series, I talked about the deadly monorail crash that killed a 21-year-old worker at Disney. This isn't the first time that this ride has taken someone's life. The first death occurred in 1966 during the park's annual grad night. Pictured here is 19-year-old Thomas Guy Cleveland. He attempted to sneak into the park on that night. He successfully managed to climb over the park's 16-foot-high fence, and then he got onto the monorail tracks. But while on the track, the monorail train struck and killed him. It dragged his body 30 to 40 feet before stopping. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know? Part 16. So today, let's expose one of Disney's very dark policies. So this policy involves all the character actors at Disney. So if you get severely injured while working there, no matter what, you have to stay in character. So one man, before accepting the job as Water Goofy, was told that in an event that he started drowning, lifeguards had to carry him away before they could remove his costume and perform CPR on him. He literally could be dying in the costume and need medical attention right away, but Disney won't allow it. Like I said, all characters need to be carried away before any sort of medical attention can be provided. Okay, I get it. They do this in order to preserve the magic at Disney. But come on, that is severely messed up. In fact, because of this policy, a lot of character actors have been severely injured and have gone on to sue Disney. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know, part 17. Today, let's talk about the dark truth behind Disney's abandoned park, Discovery Island. Discovery Island was an island in the middle of Bay Lake that Disney World visitors could get to by a boat. It opened in 1974 and it was known for having an incredible amount of exotic birds. It was basically like a miniature zoo. But in 1989, it got ugly for Disney. Disney employees were exposed for harming the animals. These employees were shooting, trapping, and injuring the birds. PETA got involved and it was just this huge, big mess. As a result, Disney lost a lot of customers. In 1999, the park closed for undisclosed reasons. Now the island is still there, it's just completely abandoned. Don't even try and go there though, because you'll get arrested if caught trespassing. Needless to say, this island has a pretty dark and messed up past. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know, part 18. Today I'm going to be talking about a very creepy urban legend surrounding Walt Disney himself. Legend goes that Walt Disney had his head cryogenically frozen. The legend started back in 1967 when a reporter snuck into St. Joseph's Hospital, the hospital that Walt Disney passed away in. That's where apparently he saw Disney's frozen head. Now here's where the legend gets creepier. So of course you've heard of the movie Frozen, am I right? Let it go. Well, theory goes that this movie was actually created as a diversion. Let me explain. Nowadays, when you Google Disney Frozen, only the movie pops up. But before the movie was created, if you typed in Disney's Frozen, then the whole legend about Walt Disney freezing his head would pop up. So it's believed that this movie was created so that people would stop finding out about Disney freezing his head. It's a crazy theory, I know, but maybe it's true and Disney will come back to life shortly. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know, part 19. Today, let's talk about the time that an employee almost got caught on fire, and Disney did nothing about it. So this story was shared by a Disney employee that worked as an outside vendor. It was nighttime, so he was just chilling, watching the fireworks. Now, during this fireworks performance, there's a time where you see Tinkerbell fly through the air. Except while in the air, her wire got stuck. She was stuck hanging right above the castle. The next act was Indiana Jones themed, and there was huge fireballs. I think you guys get where I'm going with this. Basically, Tinkerbell was up there and about to be engulfed by these flames. But Disney truly cares about guest experience. So they didn't stop the firework display because that would be rude to the guests. Instead, they left Tinkerbell up there and just turned the spotlight off of her. Thankfully, she was fine. But literally could have been roasted alive up there. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know, part 20. Today, let's talk about the tragic death of Devin Staples. Devin Staples was a 22-year-old employee at Disney. He was best known for dressing up as Gaston, but he also played a variety of other characters. Sadly, on July 4th, 2015, Devin lost his life. On this night, while celebrating the 4th of July, he took a firework and placed it on his head. The firework got caught on fire and exploded, taking Devin's life instantly. Devin's brother was the first one to arrive on scene, and when he did, he said that there was no Devin left. That is a very traumatic thing to see. You're probably wondering how the firework got set off in the first place. According to people around him, he was teasing that he was going to light it and didn't actually mean to. So it went off accidentally. Then you got the media that's saying that he wanted to take his own life. But Devin's family and friends don't think this is the case. Either way, Disney does not want anyone to know that one of their workers died in such a tragic way. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know, part 21. Today, let's talk about the man with the cane, a real-life ghost that haunts the Haunted Mansion ride. How ironic. Legend goes that back in the day, this man died on the property that is now Disney. He has been seen by a number of Disney employees and likes to haunt the Haunted Mansion ride. He is referred to as the man with the cane because he is a man and with a cane. According to employees, they see him get on the ride, but never see him leave. He just mysteriously disappears. This man likes to appear late at night, especially after closing. Apparently, it's thought that this man is trapped between two worlds. He's literally trapped at Disney and can't escape. Just be careful if you ever come across this ghost man at Disney. Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know, part 22. Today, let's talk about the scary ghost that haunts the Tower of Terror. According to this story, back in the day, there was a bellhop working on Platform D of the Tower of Terror. He was loading guests onto the ride when all of a sudden, he dropped dead. To this day, no one knows why or how he died. Now his ghost is said to haunt the ride. In fact, you can see him here in this image. That's the ghost of the bellhop, still riding the ride. Oh, this image literally gives me chills. Oh. In fact, a lot of park guests have seen this ghost and say, wow, that bellhop ghost is a really good addition to the ride. Little do they know that it's a real ghost. The Tower of Terror is haunted by a real ghost. I talked about this in another video, but let me provide you with proof. So basically, one night a worker was closing up this ride when he mysteriously dropped dead. And now, he haunts the ride. Security footage from the ride caught physical evidence of his ghost. Here you can see his ghost right behind the ride operator. And here's another photo that shows his ghost. It's all very creepy if you ask me. But apparently he means no harm, so I mean, that's good, right?